Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried & Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you once again for tuning in. I want you guys to know how much I love you. I can't tell you the gratitude I have for all your support. We've touched so many lives because of this, and I'm so grateful for the guests that come on and they're vulnerable and they share their stories. And I'm also grateful for our sponsors. We've got Siegfried & Jensen, we've got Veracity Networks, Wasatch Recovery is now a new sponsor as well. And I can't believe where we're at. We just hit 135,000 downloads and things are just cranking. And it's not because of me. It's because of these amazing guests that I have come on. And today is no different. Today we're joined by the program director at Reflections Recovery, Tracey Williams. Tracey, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I heard Tracy's story, I guess it's been about 6 months ago, maybe, when you came here to Wasatch and you spoke to our clients here. And you're also a sponsor to one of our employees. And this person we were just talking about that you are a sponsor to, we were just talking about how she's just got a spring in her step. She's got light in her, in her countenance, and she's just like loving life. And to see you smile about that, Tracy, is awesome, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's amazing to even hear. It just lights up my soul. It just makes you, know that what you're doing today is on purpose.
Yeah.
And has purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me so happy.
and I know after, doing some research on you and then obviously talking to this person who knows you really well, you do live your life on purpose. Yeah. And whereas before it wasn't so much so, but a little background on Tracy, she never would have believed that her life that she's living today would have ever been possible. She has over 20 years in her past that she struggled with addiction, unhealthy relationships, trauma, abuse. She lost her children. And then ended up in prison. And, and you obviously had these probably beliefs. There's no way you're going to have a better life. This is it. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow. But now, and you remind me, Tracy, of this statement, the greater the darkness, the greater the light.
Oh, thank you.
That's what you remind me of. And so, you've been through so much, and I can't wait for you guys to hear her story. She now does her best to live her life with 100% honesty. She's been, we just talked about over 11 years clean now.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thanks. I remember hitting the double digits and thinking, I made it.
Yeah. Wow. So you are a substance use disorder counselor and you got your bachelor's in psychology. Again, you probably thought that was out of reach or even possible.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
But here you are. Yeah. And not only are you the program director, but you just influence lives for good, period.
Yeah.
And so I just want people to hear your amazing story. But I'd like to start off, if you're okay, just tell us where you grew up and a little about your family and your childhood.
I grew up, so I was born here in Utah.
Okay.
Moved to Arizona when I was pretty young. And so my brother was born here in Utah. I have a brother that's older by a year and 3 months, and I have a sister that's younger. And we moved to Arizona. And I grew up there until I was in the 6th grade, till I was about 11.
Okay.
And then I moved to California, and then I moved to Idaho, and then I moved back to Utah, or back to Arizona.
Okay.
I grew up all over the place. I moved a lot.
Okay.
I moved a lot as a kid after my parents got divorced.
Was that tough as a kid, moving? Because I've heard that a lot because kids, you get comfortable with your friends and all of a sudden, we're moving.
Yeah. What I learned was not to get comfortable.
Okay.
Right. I became a chameleon, and I just learned how not to be comfortable.
Right.
Because I never knew when something was going to change.
Right. So. Were you involved? Did you play sports? Did you play an instrument? Were you that type of person back then?
I absolutely was. Because growing up, I believed that, and this started from a very, very young age where I did not feel worthy of being seen. That my presence was an annoyance or a burden.
Right.
I was born without a hip socket in my left leg. So I had to wear a brace. So I was handicapped for the first 3 years of my life. I couldn't
Really?
even walk.
Okay.
I was in math resource and reading resource. And so what I learned to do at a pretty young age is to find acceptance. I joined track. I played tetherball. I, was in the choir. I was always doing something outside myself to give myself the value that I lacked inside.
Right. Wow.
Or the worth,
So a lot of challenges right off the bat for you.
Oh, right off the bat.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, so did you feel like you had, did you feel like a confident kid, or did you, you said, you kind of faded into the background a little bit?
Yeah. I didn't speak out. I didn't speak up.
Mm-hmm.
I was not a confident kid. Everything I did full of doubt and
Right.
fear always.
Right.
Because of how I felt on the inside. I was worthless on the inside, and I just wasn't enough on the inside. And it seemed like no matter how hard I tried to be something on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
even though I was more accepted for those things, it was still difficult to feel confident in doing those things.
Right. Yeah. And obviously, so that leads to certain things. And so you did some traveling or some moving, like as you said,
Yeah.
and then you eventually found yourself back to Utah. How old were you when you found yourself back here in Utah?
Oh, 28 or 9, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, because my kids were already
Yeah. So
older.
it was when you were older. Gotcha.
Mhm, yeah.
So where did you spend the bulk of your time? Which state were you in?
That's hard to say.
Is that still
'cause
hard
the
to say?
bulk of my time, I'd probably say between California and Arizona up until I came back here to Utah.
Gotcha.
So I moved out of Arizona. Like I said, when I was 11, my parents got divorced. My dad was a raging alcoholic, and he was just one of those horrible human beings as an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Very mean. I just didn't belong there, and I knew I didn't belong there, and so I went to live with my mom. And that was in Van Nuys, California, Burbank area, Then we moved to Glendale, then we moved to Lake Elsinore, then we moved to Temecula, and then we moved to Menifee, then we moved to,
Really? So just
yeah, because it was just me
moving.
and my mom, and
Yeah.
so I worked from the time I was 11. I've
Really?
always worked.
Really?
Yeah, because my mom worked really hard to support us, and so I worked for LDS Social Services where my grandmother was, and that gave me enough money to go to the YWCA and take gymnastics, and so I just tried to stay busy. I'd go home and clean and cook and have stuff ready for my mom when she got home, and so I've always been like self-sufficient, essentially.
Right.
Learned at a very young age what that looked like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard. Not only a bunch of challenges, but you learned the value of hard work. I mean, and you almost had to, right? Yeah. Here you are. I mean, 11 years old, most kids are, watching TV or cartoons and playing in the backyard, and you're working.
Yeah. Playing outside.
Wow.
Yeah. Having friends, and I had really good friends when I lived in Lake Elsinore, California, because I lived there for probably almost 4 years. And so I had some really good friends in Lake Elsinore, but I didn't see my brother and sister but once a year for 2 to 3 weeks out of the year. And so I felt like a single child.
Yeah.
I grew up away from, my
Yeah,
siblings.
away from them, yeah.
My dad had been remarried, and I have a stepsister, but she's like a real sister because she
Right.
was 7 when she joined us.
Okay.
And we're like the 4 T's: Todd, Tracy, Tawny, Trish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that part of your life.
Yeah.
I obviously we mentioned you have struggled with addiction, or you did for a long, long time. When did that start? And just kind of maybe share, just the story and what really led up to, I mean, you lost your kids, you went to prison. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that story with us.
I was a very good girl all through high school. My grandparents were like pillars to me. And pillars of just how to be a good human being. And they were very, very involved in the LDS religion. And so I grew up pretty much in that. Even though my mom never went, even though my dad never went, I still went most of the time, which kept me pretty solid. Graduated as a virgin from high school,
Right.
like I was a
Yeah.
good girl.
Yeah.
But after high school, it's almost like some flip was switched. And I had smoked weed in high school. Especially on my senior class trip, we went to Hawaii.
Okay.
I had drank when I was in high school. And so, and once again, as a senior, Okay. And I
Yeah.
graduated at 18. And so I had used prior to then, but it never was an issue. Then I got married. I met a guy on my summer vacation, and I ended up getting married because I got pregnant. And I swore I never would ever get pregnant. You know, I had
Yeah.
plans to work for Delta Airlines and fly all over the world, right? And have a
Okay,
penthouse
right.
suite
Yeah.
in Monterey and one in,
Yeah.
you know, and so I had these grandeur plans, and I just knew that I wasn't going to want children when I first got out of school.
Right.
Or I mean, yeah, out of school. And, but I got pregnant. My dad forced me into a marriage that I didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
You know, he said, I won't have a bastard child in my family. You know, if you don't marry him, you're not my daughter. And I
Wow.
already struggled with acceptance from my dad. You know, my dad was very hard for me. I never felt loved by my father or accepted by my father, or that I was good enough for him. I never measured up. And,
Yeah.
and so I got married, and this man that I married smoked weed all the time. And so then it was smoking pot, and then we were drinking all the time and playing all these drinking games.
Yeah.
And then that was my first relationship was abuse. It was nothing. It was abuse, like physical abuse,
Man.
you know, and so that's my first experience being with a man. So right out of high school, I get pregnant. So everything I valued and believed in and loved about what I wanted for my life, even though I struggled with feeling like I was enough,
Yeah.
all that did was solidify that, okay, Tracy, you're not, obviously you can't do the next right thing. You can't make good choices. You can't,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah.
Man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm thinking like, you know, you had, you know, struggling with your dad and the way he was treating you and the family because of his alcoholism and, you know, how abusive that was. And then here's that same guy telling you to get into this unhealthy relationship. You got to marry this guy. And then you're thinking, you're probably thinking, is this what marriage looks like? Is this what relationships are?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can imagine how that was just really conflicting for you.
Yeah. You know, and I didn't have a real good example of relationships. You know, my mom was in and out of relationships after my father, you know, and I don't remember my childhood really before I'm 11. Before leaving my dad, I really don't have any memory of that. And
okay.
It was just the relationship between, I guess it just wasn't worth, I don't know. One day it might pop back up. I pray it never does.
Yeah, right.
But, you know.
I understand.
But yeah, I didn't really have a good role model for relationships. I didn't even know what that was going to look like. And so, yeah, to be in this relationship and scared before I even started,
Yeah.
you know, it was really difficult.
Well, you and I see this all the time in treatment where, I mean, probably one of the main reasons people relapse is they get into these unhealthy or go back to a toxic relationship,
Horrible.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it never works, right? And
No,
so
it never will.
So as you're in this relationship that's not healthy, you know, you said you guys are smoking and drinking and playing drinking games and all this stuff. So pick up from there. And then where did it lead to? And then how did you,
Well, so the abuse just made it worse.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I ended up, my daughter was 3 months old. I went to my dad, asked for help me get out of this marriage. He said, I'm sorry, honey, a woman's place is with her husband. And so I ended up leaving him literally in the middle of the night and went to California. My mom was living in California at the time and went to California. Well, in California, I went to school at ITT Tech. I was in math resource and reading resource all through school.
Really? Okay.
That made it really difficult for me to have any more self-worth.
Right.
Right? Because I couldn't even read correctly, and I couldn't write correctly, and I couldn't do math at all. And so what was I thinking going into ITT Tech as a computer programmer? You know, what was I possibly thinking? And so I'm working full time now at my mom's, and I went to school, and I was struggling in school, and I went to a study group after school that I was invited to. And that's where I was first introduced to crank. And I felt like I had put on some magic cape.
Right.
And that's all it took for me. I did that. I snorted a line of crank, and that cape became my shield.
Right.
You know, shield of, oh, you can do anything, Tracy. It's all right. You can get through this. Look at all this energy. You know, I ended up 6 months later dropping out of school, losing my job. And the next thing I know, my mom and I were fighting, and I get kicked out basically. And I'm living in a trap house. I didn't even know, Todd, what a trap house was. I didn't know what it was like doing drugs all the time. I didn't know what I was giving up or the shame and the despair that came with that. And when that came, my mom came to where I was and fist fought to get my daughter out of my arms and took her from me. And
really,
yeah, and I thought, well, I can't even be a mom right. I can't do anything right. I can't go to school. I can't do anything right. I can't be married. I can't, you know?
Right.
And
wow.
And that started the cycle of my use. And I learned what it was like. I thought it was just on the shows, on TV shows, where only things like this could possibly exist on TV.
Right,
you know?
like they over dramatize it.
Yeah.
But then here you are living it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, right? You're like,
exactly. And it's not over dramatized. You
Yeah.
know, I was in the pit of despair. I'd been raped, you
Oh,
know,
man.
and living on the street, just trying to figure out how to survive, how to get out of what I
How
started.
old are you at this point when you're in that trap house? And
19.
whoa, man.
19. Yeah, because I got married like literally right out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got pregnant right out of high school,
Yeah.
got married right out of high school, left him when I was 19. This all happened within that year where you know, everything changed for me. And I called my mom up and I was like, Mom, I need help. I can't do this. I miss my daughter. And,
Yeah.
and so I picked up, cleaned up for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
moved back to Arizona. And within 3 months, I was allowed to get my daughter back. I was working 2 jobs. What do? I go to work. I know what it means to go to work. So I went
Right.
to work and got a couple of jobs, got my place, got my daughter back. And it wasn't much, and it took some time, actually. One of the companies I worked for, which is pretty freaking cool, was they kept wondering why I kept falling asleep at the desk, you know?
Right.
And come to find out, I got called into the office of the manager, and he's like, we're all in recovery. You know, we understand what you're going through. You can be honest, you know, you
Yeah.
can tell us what's going on. And that support in the beginning was amazing.
That is amazing.
But one of my second jobs was working at a bar, you know, as a bartender. And because now I'm 20, 21. And then I met another guy, and I was smoking weed. I was still drinking. I was using crank still. Putting myself around shady people.
Yeah.
Gotten involved in this another relationship, and that was horribly abusive. Horribly abusive. And I was told I would never be able to have kids again after my daughter because the abuse in that relationship put a hole in the embryo sac.
Okay.
And like I almost lost her. I was hospitalized for a while. Yeah. And well, then I ended up getting pregnant, having a miscarriage, pregnant, having a miscarriage from this other guy. God was trying to say something, right?
Right, yeah.
You know, and one of them stuck. And now I'm a single mom because I left him. He was abusive. My dad wouldn't help me, you know, and so I just have this history.
Yeah.
And I was going to put my son up for adoption, but I ended up keeping him, cleaning up and keeping him. And so I have bouts of cleaning up.
Yeah.
Right? At different times.
Different times in your life, yeah.
But just not being able to stay right.
Right. So at this point you have both kids, you're single, and probably feeling like, you probably think back on that now. How did you do it? Right. You know what I mean? Like, how did you even make it to the next day?
Yeah.
Almost. Right.
Yeah.
And here you are now doing such amazing things, Tracy. So what led up to you going to prison? How did that come about?
So I had been in and out of horrible relationships, abuse, you know, and just I kept thinking that everything outside of me was going to fix what was wrong with the inside of me.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't stop as I grew up. It just continued to be my solution. If it wasn't going to be a sport, it was going to be a man. If it wasn't going to be a man, of course it was going to be my kids. If it's not going to be my kids, it's going to be, let's try this new drug or let's try this new thing.
Right.
You know, and so I just couldn't keep it right. And so I don't know how just to jump to that place, but I had lost my kids at this time a couple of times, and by the third time, they left me. My daughter couch surfed.
Okay.
You know, to
so
stay
they were
away
just
from
done
me.
with
They were done
what was
with
going
me.
on.
Yeah, they were done with me, and by all rights, they should have been.
Yeah.
You know, because I just drug them through so much. And
how old was your daughter when she left you?
16.
16.
Yeah, she was 16. And my son was 12. And yeah, my daughter couch surfed, ended up living at my uncle's house, honestly. And then my son, even though they have a dad they call dad, my daughter has never met her dad. Well, she met him a couple of times in all of her years of growing up.
Okay.
My son has never met his dad because I left him before.
Right.
And but there was a man that I dated briefly for a little while that my kids fell in love with, and he fell in love with them, and he's just been a constant presence in their life, even though I never was.
Okay.
And they call him dad.
Call him dad, yeah.
So my son went to live with him, but I never got my first charge, okay, till I was 38.
Really?
Yeah. But once I got my first charge, so I had bouts of clean time, and then I would just work, and I would excel at work, and then I would self-sabotage and get in another bad relationship, and I just couldn't ever get it right.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to jail for a DUI, and I had meth, coke, marijuana, and alcohol in my system. And my first charge was a felony DUI that I ever had. And within like 11 months of that felony DUI, going to jail, I caught a lot more charges.
Sure, yeah.
Driving on a suspended, theft, forgery, paraphernalia charges. Every time I got pulled over, the dogs were called. You know, I just ended up being that person, and
because they knew who you were at this point.
Yeah.
Hey, we just pulled Tracy over again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, my son was so desperate at one time to save his mom that he would take pictures of my paraphernalia when he would find it, and he would take it to the police station and beg them to help him.
Really?
Save me. Yeah.
Oh my
I learned
goodness.
this later on.
Yeah.
know.
How old was he at that time? Do you know?
14, 15, probably.
So here
16.
he is seeing you suffering and struggling, and he's probably like, okay, I'm going to go hopefully get her arrested so this will stop.
Yeah. Yeah. My children loved me because when I'm right, I'm right.
Sure.
You know, and they know who their mom is, you know, but I couldn't accept who I had become.
Yeah.
And the worse I did, and the more I kept failing, the less I tried to fight, because I just felt like it was an unending battle, and why keep trying?
Yeah, sure.
Honestly, going to prison, I couldn't get clean. I was in the DORA program. I was in the drug court. You know, I was on drug court. I failed those programs. My daughter was pregnant with her grandson, my first grandson, and I wasn't there for her. She didn't want me anywhere around him. I was high when she got married. I wasn't high, but I was still using when she got married, just not that for those hours.
Right.
And
Man.
Anyway, and so going to prison literally saved my life. And in the process of this clean time, I left the church. Obviously, I left the church. I stopped believing that, you know, that God was for me. And I left the church. And then I, at one point, got baptized Catholic, thinking, okay, well, this church will work for me. Maybe that God will work, you know. And then I got baptized Christian. Well, maybe this God will work for me. Like I said, I was always searching for something to save me from myself.
Right.
And the least likely place to find it, I found it. And that was in prison.
Yeah, that really hit me hard when you said prison saved my life.
Yeah.
I mean, but all the things, what's going to save your life? You know, you know, all these other things you're talking about, but it was prison.
Yeah.
So what happened in prison? I mean, and if you don't mind sharing that part of it.
So just before I went to prison, this part always makes me emotional, but My aunt worked for Weber County Drug Court.
Okay.
And she was always my advocate. And she said to me, or told my mom and my kids, you need to go see your mom before she goes to prison. So they showed up for me about a week before I went to prison. It was such a shock just to have them show up, because my son by this time was like, don't you call me, don't you talk to me, I hate you.
Man.
I don't trust you. My daughter didn't want anything to do with me because she couldn't trust me with her family. Like, my kids had disowned me. Of course, that's what we do. We alienate ourselves from everyone that loves us.
Absolutely, yeah. We disconnect.
Yep. Right? It's better this way,
exactly,
right? How do we show up with our shame as a badge on our sleeve?
Right.
And anyway, and so I went to prison knowing that my daughter was pregnant with her second baby. Man. And there again, I'm not going to be there.
Not going to be there again.
She didn't even want me to know, but my aunt blurted it out. And so what happened when I got to prison, I had nothing left. I had nothing, and I had no one. I had to die to myself. Does that make sense? I had to bury my old thinking, my old beliefs. I had to bury who I was, essentially, to be made into the person that I get to be today.
Yeah.
And that was one of the hardest lessons I ever had. And I don't think I could have done that. In fact, I know I couldn't have done that if I hadn't found the God of my understanding.
Yeah.
On my knees, in my cell, crying out for help. You know how we have those foxhole prayers where you just hit your knees and, God, if you do this for me, I promise, I just promise I'll never do this again,
Yeah.
And hitting my knees in that foxhole prayer type thing. But the difference between this prayer and all of those foxhole crying prayers was I had to have something bigger than me, because look where I had gotten.
Yeah.
I have hit the epitome. I just wish I would have been died instead of gone there.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
My kids didn't even talk about me. Who do you talk to?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my mom's great. She's in prison.
She's in prison, yeah.
This is the life that she's always had for me. This is what she's done,
My goodness.
And I found a God of my understanding. And in that process, like I said, go to work. Going to work has always been the thing that I just go and do. Just go to work, Tracy. That'll fix everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I did within my first. So the interesting thing is that when God started showing up, he showed up big. Can I talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Because I had a belief in the beginning that God was a condemning God. Mm-hmm. Like I had failed him. I will never be able to make up for what I've done. I am sinful, and I will never not be. And then, but I've experienced his presence in everything that I've sought him for.
Okay.
But the presence that I experienced on my knees in prison was a relationship that I was able to have with just him and I trusted that relationship because of how he started showing up for me. Because when I went to prison, I went right into R&O. I was supposed to go into population.
Okay.
But instead of going into population, I went to treatment.
Yeah.
In prison. And everybody was blown away. You don't belong here. They tried to send me out and send me to a different building.
Serious?
And then they sent me back to that building, and so I belonged there. And for the first time in my life, I understood, because I was with women just like me that were just as broken as I was, and that I didn't feel like I was in a place by myself, even though I felt alone. If that makes sense.
Yes.
And I started to understand, being in an Excel program, the disease and the hopelessness and the helplessness and the hope. Yeah. Actually, I started to feel hope in a hopeless place. I started to feel light in the darkest place.
Yeah.
If that makes sense,
For sure, 100%. Yeah.
And I just determined that no matter what it took, I was never going to come back there. I was never going to go back. Never going to go back, because I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
I couldn't go back. There was, even when I think about it now in my life, picking up anything and making that mistake, and the idea that it'll take me back, that is just, it terrifies me.
Yeah.
Where I had gotten. because those relationships that I had been, they just solidified my lack of self-worth and my lack of self-love. They just solidified all of those beliefs I grew up believing, that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't worthy, that I was a mistake, that I was stupid, that I was not to be heard, that I was meant to be seen, and I put myself in relationships like that constantly. Wow. And for the first time in my life, I was faced with myself.
Just you. Man, that is powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. How long did you end up staying in prison?
15 months.
15 months, which probably felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine 2 or 3 nights there, let alone,
Yeah. So, crazy thing. A week before I went to the board, I was called to go, I guess I had court. Williams, you got court, get ready. And I was like, what in the world? I went to court a week before prison, and the felony DUI, the very first charge I ever got, was dropped to a Class A misdemeanor. And so I ended up being in prison on one charge, a forgery charge, on 1-0-5. A week before I went to the board.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
I was told that board member would be like the worst one I would see, and just can I tell you a quick story? I don't know if we have time.
No, we got time. We're good. We're doing great.
Excuse me.
No, you're good.
But the night before I went to the board, I was just in prayer. God, I don't know what your plan is for me. I'm just going to trust you. Because by this time I've had his experience, so I'm going to trust you. Whatever it is, if I'm here for a year, if I'm here for 5, if I'm here for 3, whatever that looks like, I'm just going to trust you.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. So the night before I went, I had a dream that I was this little girl and I was cute, and my hair was all in curls and I was in this little blue dress with black shiny shoes. But I was in I call it a space because there was no floor, there was no ceiling, there were no walls. It was just all white.
Yeah.
It was just all white. And walking towards me was this huge lion. I'm about 6 years old and I'm terrified. I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm trembling.
Yeah.
Like even speaking about it today, I can feel the little girl trembling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as that lion got closer, I just felt like helpless. The monster was coming for me.
Here it comes. Nothing I can do.
Nothing I can do. I'm all alone.
Man.
And just as the lion got to me, it turned around and it sat in front of me. I stopped crying. And I knew in that moment I was okay. I believed that God was trying to tell me that he's always been there. I left that little girl behind a long, 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 long time ago. And so the next day, I kid you not, that lion was at my left side, plain as day in my mind's eye. Plain as day, as I was getting shackled, put on the bus, taken over to the other building, walking what I call the Green Mile, which was just the long hallway to get down into the board, shackled and chained. That lion was on my left side. I go sit down in that chair. The lion sat to my left side. And the first thing the board member says to me is, Miss Williams, welcome. I'm looking over your file. He said, I don't understand. Did you have a crossroads in your life? Why am I seeing you? At this point in your life, what happened to you? He offered me termination, and I begged him not to terminate me because I was terrified to get off paper, terrified to not be accountable. Wow. And he said, Miss Williams, I don't think you're hearing me. I'm offering you termination. So when I walked out of those doors, I walked out a free woman. A second chance was given to me by God. I gave myself a second chance in believing that there was something greater than me and a greater purpose. And I trusted that purpose because what was greater than me made it clear to me that it wasn't there.
Yeah.
By the way, the things just are, do you know?
Yeah, right.
How they just showed up.
They just showed up.
Yeah. Do you know I went and shared my story? I never thought I'd ever go back in there, right? Told myself I would never go back, but I ended up going back and sharing my story to the very women that were just like me 10 years later.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Wow.
Going back and talking.
Thanks for sharing that. And that I can visualize that dream you were having. And as soon as you said the lion sat down and turned around in front of you, it was almost like, I'm looking ahead and I'm going to protect anything that's going to come your way now. Yeah. That's what but you explained it better than I'm saying it, but that's what I was like, whoa. Yeah. That really hit me hard, Tracy. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I know.
I have this because of it.
Oh, right on. Okay. She's showing me she's got a tattoo on her right forearm that says strength
and beauty.
And it's got a picture of a lion. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dang. I want to say something because, you shared this with me earlier today. You work hard and you set your mind and you've kept it set and you've never looked back. Yeah. Right? And as long as you continue to do those things one day at a time, one moment at a time sometimes, right?
Yeah.
To doing the next right thing.
Yeah.
So that's really what you're doing now.
Yes.
We mentioned that you're the program director at Reflections Recovery Treatment Center, and this is what you do all day long. I mean, just so you guys know, Tracy's like, when are we done? I've got to go do a group. She's going to go process people and help them, and this is her life now. Yeah. So now that you just give back all day, every day, and so tell us a little bit about what does a day look like for you now?
I just want to preface too, if you don't mind, and then I'll answer that question.
Please.
6 months after getting out of prison, I got a job working in treatment. And I've never stopped. And I've just been grown from one place to another place to another place. Went back to school at the age of 45. Didn't get out of prison until I was 44.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I went back to school at 45. Took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree, but I've also gone back to school to get, I'm certified as an interventionist.
Oh, really?
So
awesome.
I can do that. I'm certified as it's called a sober companion, safe transport, case manager. And so I can do all of those things. I've started my own business kind of thing on the side. It's not real big yet, but I haven't really stepped fully into doing that yet, but it's called Warriors for Recovery because I'm a warrior. I believe that I've been created and saved and that I wield a sword in the fight against addiction to save people from that darkness and despair.
Yeah.
And that is what that's what keeps me empowered, where I wake up every day grateful for the day.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get overwhelmed and sometimes I get like, I can't do this anymore. It's too much for me. I can't watch one more person die. I can't keep doing this.
It's tough.
But then, God's like, yes, you can. I've got you. I'm here for you. Yeah. You've got all that you need.
Yeah.
And so my day, I wake up and I get ready and I have my coffee and I say my morning prayers and and I do my dailies and I just give awesome. everything I think, say, and do, God, may it represent you.
Wow.
Because I don't know.
That.
I don't know.
Right.
But my belief system is not the same. Who I was then is not who I am now.
Oh yeah, I can feel your passion and power right now.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, I know my value. I know my worth. I love who I am today.
Wow.
And I never thought that would be possible. And that is the greatest gift I've ever been given. And I was able to, through the help of other people, places, and things in my higher power, I was able to achieve that status within myself. And that doesn't mean I don't struggle with doubt.
Sure.
But I'll tell you what, I'd rather struggle with the doubt that I have today than the fear I lived with for over 40 years.
For sure.
And so I get to go to work and I get to be a person of influence. I get to be more than I even recognize because God is doing more through me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense.
And I just trust him I just want to be that vessel where God just continues to save lives. We're meant to be his hands and feet. God shows up for us through other people and his timing is never late. God is never late and he is never wrong. And he puts the right people in the right place at the right time every single time. And I can't say it enough. And if you don't believe me, try it. That's my challenge to people. Oh, you don't believe in, well, try it.
Yeah.
Try it for 6 months. Try it for 3. If it doesn't work for you,
Put it to the test.
right?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What's
Yeah.
the challenge? But there, you just said it perfectly.
Yeah.
There it is.
Because you don't know what you don't know,
Exactly.
and until you do,
Yeah.
you never will,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? So one of the things I fully believe in, and I teach this to my family, my clients, is that addiction, or you can put adversity, is the wake-up call to our greatness.
Yeah.
And here I'm sitting here looking at you, feeling your passion, seeing how much you love this, you're emotional, and what you're doing today. I mean, all of that stuff you went through. I mean, it's amazing you're even alive, honestly.
Yes,
it's
it
a
is.
miracle.
It is.
But here you are. Look what you get to do now.
Yeah.
And had you not gone through that, you wouldn't be this powerful influence for good today.
Yeah.
So I just see greatness.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that it's actually possible for me to sit here and talk
Right.
openly,
Man.
if
Yeah.
because now I have a voice. I trust my voice.
Yeah.
I get to have one today.
Yeah.
I get to
Yeah.
show up
It's beautiful.
and suit up, today.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is
it's
amazing.
fabulous. And my kids,
Yeah.
oh gosh, they love me.
Yeah.
I have 4 grandkids now.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
I get all of them in my life. I own my own home. I have things I never ever dreamed I'd have, and I'm doing things I never ever dreamed I would. And
I love
and I
it.
still make mistakes.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Do you know what a different definition is? Insanity is doing something different, expecting the same results. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're
that's a
willing to
good
just
way
keep
to look
doing
at it.
something different,
Yeah.
just be willing to do something different, take those suggestions,
Yeah.
you will never have what you've always had. You will
Yeah.
have something you've never dreamed you could
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Wow. Very well said. I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, Tracy, you're amazing. I can't thank you enough for being willing to come share your story with us today.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for this opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome.
I needed this just as much.
Well, thank you. And you're an answer to my prayer today. I want you to know that
Thank you.
truly. And I'm sure people who are listening to this are saying the same thing.
Thank you.
If someone's listening to this right now and they want to reach out to you and, get to know more what you're doing, especially this new business you're doing, and
Yeah.
what's the best way for someone to get in contact with you?
Probably just text me.
Okay.
I don't answer numbers I don't know. So if you just text me at 8, do you want me to give my number?
If you're okay with that.
At 801-427-4139. I am more than willing to talk with whomever happens to pick up the phone and give me a call.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what we do.
Yep.
We give back. We are
Yep.
God's hands and feet. We are not meant to do things alone. We are not meant to be alone. We are meant to be connected to other people. We are meant to be forgiven. We are meant to love who we are. We are meant to share that love with other people. We're meant to be so much more.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I couldn't agree more. And you're amazing, Tracy. And we're grateful that you're still alive, and I'm grateful that you're giving back. We're lucky to have you. I'm lucky to be sitting here with you today and hearing it firsthand. So sorry, folks, you have to just listen to it. I get to see it in person, but your story and your words and your passion and your love is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for doing this type of show
Yeah.
to help others.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can see that your passion and your purpose is in this also.
Thank
so
you.
It's an honor.
Yeah. We're brothers and sisters in this thing for
Yes,
sure.
we are.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to all your success. And I'm here to help you in any way I can for anything down the road. You just let me know. And I mean that.
Okay.
Okay.
Ditto.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right.
Well, there you go, folks. I told you this was going to be another amazing story with another amazing person, Tracey Williams. Reach out to her, send her a text, ask her any questions. If you don't get a hold of her, reach out to me and I'll send it on to her. But she's here to help people. I am too. And we love you and we want to see you guys win. And if you have anyone who's struggling with anything, it doesn't even have to be addiction, send them this episode. Let them listen to Tracy's story, because again, the greater the darkness, the greater the light. That is my statement. That's what describes Tracy to me.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, folks, until next time.